Okay, good morning, half of the internet. We are live on LinkedIn, Facebook, and YouTube, and we're just waiting as usual for Instagram to catch up. And when it does, we will dive in and get started. So just for one moment. Okay, almost there. I see Instagram is trying to catch up. Beautiful. Good morning, everybody. Hi, and welcome back to episode 2 of DIY Wellness. This is the show for people taking personal growth into their own hands. And on this show, we're exploring lots of different strategies for improving quality of life and improving well-being. So each episode, Morgan and I are going to be like mad scientists in a laboratory. We're going to explain and experiment with different methods of improving well-being in our own lives because we've practiced these methods. And this is so that you can create your own informed opinions and decide for yourself whether you want to try them out or not. We're both certified life coaches, so we know that what works for someone is going to be way different than what works for somebody else. So this podcast is sort of like a resource hub for you guys, finding the personal growth and wellness and well-being strategies that are most effective for you. This is not about following the leader. This is about following your heart. And if something we say rings true to your heart, then follow that. Not us, but your heart. So with that said, Morgan, how are you taking personal growth into your own hands right now?
I'm working on getting back into my morning routine because I had a really strong one for most of the year, and then I got married. And as anyone
Congratulations.
who, yes, as anyone who has gotten married knows, that kind of adds a lot of different things to your life, and it makes it really hard to maintain some consistency. And then I also caught COVID at my wedding and dealt with that for a few weeks and didn't have the energy. So now we're rebuilding and we're reconstructing what was.
Okay, right on. That's beautiful. So good. We're going to talk about morning routines today. We're going to start first by defining a routine, defining what that means and what the benefits are, why it's useful. Then we're going to get into how important it is that a morning routine be individual and that the same one will not work for everyone. And we're going to talk about that and how you can find yours. And then lastly, Morgan is going to lead us through an experiential to help you determine the best morning routine for yourself, to really help you get into your own intuitive nudges and find out what's true for you about this topic and how you can implement it best for yourself.
Yeah.
So over to you, Mo. Let's get into it.
So what is a morning routine? First off, I just want to clarify that sometimes when people hear the word or the phrase morning routine, you think of those like wild, like get up at 5:30 in the morning, have like a, hour and a half workout, go meditate, go do all these things that last for 3-4 hours. And our definition of morning routine is not going to be anything in particular. It's not like, oh, you very specifically need to follow this regimen, this ritual. We want to describe morning routine as something that is custom and unique. And so the definition that I pulled is just the definition for routine. So it's very open and general, which is just a sequence of actions regularly followed. So part of regular procedure rather than for a special reason. So your routine, what we're going to kind of encourage people to develop today through the exercise that we have later, is just what is a sequence of actions that improves your quality of life or that sets you up to be in a better place for the rest of your day. And it could be any sequence of actions. And what I do in my morning is very different than what Brian does in his morning. And what you do in your morning is going to be different from what Brian and I do. And that's okay. And that's beautiful. And that's great because it's custom and it's for you.
Yeah. So I love that. The definition of a routine, right? Just a set of actions that you do repeatedly. I came up with a similar definition and it said a synonym for morning routine was, or for routine was method. So it's just something methodological, just something that you put in place that's useful to you. Something that struck me when we were thinking about this topic was the idea of rituals too, because people will often say, I have a morning ritual or I have a morning routine. In the end, that's the same, it turns out, because the definition for a ritual is a set of actions that are conducted routinely in the same manner. It literally has the word routine in the definition of ritual. So there's nothing spiritual about that definition. It's just another way of skinning this cat. And so I just wanted to bring that up because rituals have been a part of our human zeitgeist for as far back as anthropologists can remember. It spans cultures, it spans time, and what they have found through their observational analysis in sort of the history world is that morning routines sort of help they help, and they can't really figure out why they help. But they do. They help with rituals. There's rituals for performance across cultures. There's rituals to process loss, like funerals. There's rituals to invoke protection. And in fact, they do help people perform better and grieve more fully and sharpen their mind so that we're less likely to encounter danger. It's not magic, it's science. And scientists now have decided to sort of figure this out. And so they have actually started conducting experiments. And one of the experiments was these researchers separated golfers into a control group where they said, you're going to golf. And then another group where they said, you're going to golf. Here's a lucky golf ball. And it turns out that the group that got the lucky golf ball outperformed the other group on every measure of golf performance that there was across the board. But why? Why would that be? It's definitely not about superstition. Another similar study, they had broken into two groups, people, and they said, you're going to perform a task. And the one group was told, perform the task. The other group was told, perform the task, and I've got my fingers crossed for you. I'm rooting for you. Mm-hmm. That group outperformed again the other group on every measure related to that task. So rituals, no matter what shape they take, seem to work. And we're starting to sort of figure out why. And it's partly because they help us slow down and savor our experiences more. They give us a sense of control over what's happening. And they reduce anxiety because through the execution of that ritual, we get ourselves into what performance scientists call the flow state. Beyonce has like this routine she does before every concert, which is like a little bit of this and a little bit of that. And the specifics don't matter because that's the whole point. You're going to discover what's your routine, right? But she does that routine, that ritualistic routine before every concert as a way to put herself into her center and then flow better through her concert. Morning routine is helpful because it puts us in our center right at the beginning of the day and then helps the entire day flow better.
Yeah. This is bringing to mind that, recently I joined a local business group. And as I've been getting to know all the different people in this business group and all these people that have been successful in their fields, I am learning that they all have morning routines. People who are relatively productive, successful, not super anxious, they have a form of routine. And the reason for that is because having a routine reduces decision fatigue. It makes you more productive. It makes you less anxious, and add on all the other benefits that Brian just expressed. We're getting comments on YouTube here. People are saying my morning routine starts with coffee. Relatable. I usually do either tea or coffee, but having that ritual gives you comfort, gives you safety, right? Mm-hmm. And that makes you better able to tackle on whatever is coming next for you in your day, and that's valuable.
Yeah, exactly. And safety, I'm so glad that you brought that up because actually like the studies that were done on parenting children and routine, right? Like the more routine and structure that children have, especially at a young age, mm-hmm. the better they do as well. And the reason for that is because they know what to expect. And by knowing what to expect, they feel safer. And safety is the key essential ingredient in the beginning of trauma recovery. Safety is the key essential ingredient in order to switch out of fight or flight into rest and digest. So mm-hmm. having these routines that give us that comfort, that give us that safety, that give us that sense of a touch point that we can rely upon, even though it's a touch point we're creating ourselves, that actually makes it even better because it's mm-hmm. going to be exactly right for you and not some routine that was prescribed from the outside.
Yeah.
I wonder if you might talk for a moment about decision fatigue and just sort of unpack that for a bit, because I think you're right. It reduces decision fatigue hugely. And I want to make sure everybody really understands what we mean by that.
Yeah. So every day, a human being makes thousands of decisions, from what shirt am I wearing to what am I having for breakfast to, who do I assign to this task at work, or, what do I spend my time doing, etc. We're making literally thousands of decisions. And every time you make a decision, it requires some amount of energy. Some require more energy, some require less energy. But when you have a routine, that reduces the number of decisions that you have to make because the decision has already been made and you're repeating those tasks. And what that does is later in the day, because you have saved so many different, opportunities for spending energy, you have like this extra cup of energy for later in the day. And if you need to make mm-hmm. more decisions, bigger decisions, you're having interactions with people in your life, you're going to be better able to handle those situations for longer because you saved yourself on the front end.
Yeah, exactly. That's beautiful. In fact, it brought to mind a story. I don't know if I've told you this before, but it's from Alan Watts. And he talks about this guy, this like amazing worker. And he was hired by this farmer to like do tasks on his farm. And the farmer gave him a whole list of tasks. And he like paint the fence, do this, wash this, clean it, and whatever. He did them all. He did them all so fast. He outperformed all of the other workers. And the guy was like, wow, I have to find more jobs for you. So the next day he found a whole bunch more jobs. But by the end of day 3, the farm was well taken care of. Everything that kind of task-oriented stuff was done. And so then the farmer was like, okay, I've got a new job for you, because this was a more endless job. And it was like, come into the barn and we have to sort out the potatoes. Some of these potatoes are good for the marketplace, the really good sort of round ones without all the knots and eyes. And then some of them are going to be chopped up into feed for the cattle. And so I just want you to go through the potatoes and decide which ones to go to market, which ones to go to the feed. And so the guy's like, okay. About an hour later, he comes back to the farmer and he goes, I quit. And the farmer's like, wait, why? I cannot lose you. Why are you quitting? And he goes, well, all the other jobs were fine. I can paint a fence. I can clean your barn. I can wash a pig. But the potato thing, that's just decision after decision after decision. I can't do it anymore. So that's an example of decision fatigue right there.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree that would be so much more exhausting than just start, do the thing, and kind of go on autopilot.
Yes, exactly. He could not go on autopilot. It was decision after decision. So, and sometimes that can be very difficult.
Yeah. So anyhow, back to morning routines.
Yeah.
One point that we really want to drive home is that your morning routine has to be custom. It has to be for you, and it doesn't need to be anything in particular. And so one way that Brian and I kind of wanted to drive that home is that Brian and I have very different morning routines.
Are wildly different.
So wildly different morning routines. We're both still, functional human beings. We both are enjoying our lives, and the way that we go about that is polar opposites in many respects. And the way that you do that can be polar opposite from us. But we have our own reasons for choosing our routines based on how we want to feel and what our goals are. So, Brian, do you mind sharing your crazy morning routine?
I will share it with a giant caveat that you do not do this unless it really, really resonates with you, because that's the main point here. Yeah, any of it. You don't have to do any of it. So it starts at 3:30 in the morning. That's the first. That's the first thing. But the reason it starts at 3:30 is a little bit related to my circadian rhythm, because I've always been a morning person. And so I want to capitalize on that morning time. But really, the reason I've decided to move it so early is because I really prize my free time before the kids wake up and before I have to get into the nitty gritty of my day. So for me, based on how I want to feel and what I want to accomplish, like having that time in the morning, that there's like 3 hours between 3:30 and 6:45 when nobody else in my life is awake. And I'm like, that's nice. And so I capitalize on that. I thrive on that. If you're not a morning person, then you're not going to want to adopt any aspect of my morning routine whatsoever. Right. And so really it's a morning practice that I want to do. And in addition to the morning practice, I want to have a couple hours of work time. So from 4:30 to 6:30 is just work time. I get work done, the kind of work like, I don't know if you guys have ever heard the phrase eat the frog. It's like a Buddhist saying where it's like, if you have a whole bunch of stuff you have to do during the day, then, but you know that every day you're going to have to eat a frog, no matter what. At some point during the day, you have to eat a frog. It's disgusting, right? Like, ew. Bleh. I'm not talking about frog legs with like seasoning. I'm talking about eat a frog, like a live rabbit frog. So if you're going to have to eat one, eat it first thing in the morning. Just get it over with. And so my 4:30 to 6:30 time is my time to eat all the frogs in my day, like sending the emails I don't want to send, learning software I don't want to deal with. Like, so I eat the frogs. So I want that time to myself where there isn't the craziness of competing interests and emails coming in and other people being awake. So that's why I have that time set aside. And before that, I have the actual ritual that matters to me. And like when my life circumstances are different, I'm not married to getting up at 3:30 in the morning. It could definitely be later. It's just that 4:30 to 6:30 is the best time for me to eat my frogs. And so from 3:30 to 4:30 is the best time for me to do my particular morning routine, which consists simply of a little bit of yoga, a little bit of breathing, and then I do candle gazing for 10 minutes, because that's to help sharpen, it helps sharpen your concentration. So if that resonates with you, you can add some of those practices. They certainly don't have to be done at 3:30 in the morning. And really they only are necessary if they resonate for you. Like if you're not a person who's going to enjoy doing yoga, despite all the health benefits of yoga, it actually won't help you because you're going to be doing yoga in a place of resentment, right? So you really want to hear that you've got to find something that's going to feel fulfilling to you. The last thing you want to do is create a morning routine and then become a victim to your practice.
Yeah, definitely. And my morning routine is a lot more chill. Well, I can't even say that it's chill because I do work out and I like to weight lift, but everything else that is involved is a little more chill. So I usually get up around like 7, sometimes 7:30 or 8.
So reasonable.
A little different than 3:30. I want to feel warm in the morning, and I'm usually very cold for some reason. So I sometimes I won't be able to get out of bed unless I know I'm going to be warm. So I might like literally get out of bed and put on like layers of like hoodies, or I'll go into the bathroom and I'll turn on my hair dryer and I'll just like warm myself.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love that. That's very creative.
And then if I'm working out, then I get a glass of water, my headphones, I pick a podcast, and then I go into my basement because I have like home workout equipment that the previous owner of my house just graciously left for me, which I love. And most of the time I don't really feel like working out because who does? So I start by stretching, and then I stretch until I feel like working out. And if I don't feel like working out, then I don't. And I just stretch. And then after that, I make myself a beverage, coffee. Many of our listeners are mentioning coffee. So I make coffee or I make tea. And then I have another source of warmth to continue to keep me warm because that's how I want to feel. And my body feels awake and I feel more focused. And then I start my workday.
Yeah, that's an awesome
routine. Showering too is in there somewhere.
Okay, yeah, showering's in there too for me, just to be clear.
Yep.
But you said something that I wanted to make sure I circle back to my routine on too, because I also modify based on my mood and how I'm feeling. Like Morgan was just saying, sometimes she'll just stretch and not work out. Sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and like, I really don't want to do my yoga. Like I just don't, right? So instead I'll just go sit in my meditation corner and I'll start with candle gazing instead. And if the mood strikes me later to get into my yoga, maybe I will, maybe I won't. Or I can pop it in later in the day. So it's the key here is to establish a routine that is fulfilling to you so that ideally you mostly want to do it so that it becomes ritualistic for you, and that you also exist in perpetual creative response to whatever presents itself for you each and every day. And so you know ahead of time, I'm not married to this. I'm not stuck with this. This is for my benefit and can be changed by me at any time.
Yes. And I'm not wrong if I change it. I'm not bad if I, like I don't shame myself if I didn't work out.
Exactly.
Like if I was not able to, or if my body didn't feel ready for it, or, you know, there was some other reason, I trust myself to do it later. So when I don't, it's because I chose to, and I'm doing that for my own benefit. And so there's no shame in that.
Yes, exactly. The whole thing here is to create this, customize this, and then change it at will for your own benefit. There's no empirical reason. It's not like you should do a morning routine because it makes you more virtuous, or you should do a morning routine because somehow you're a better human. That's bullshit. Do a morning routine because of some of the benefits of just routine and ritual in general, and starting it in the morning helps set your day right. So if this resonates with you, then establish a morning routine, but establish one you fucking love so you can keep doing it.
Yes. I love it. Cool. So, as we were talking about this, the main focus is just feeling better, right? You want to feel however you want to feel, and a morning routine can help you achieve that because it's custom designed and handpicked by you. So I'm going to walk through a short exercise that is really just a couple questions that you can use to design your own morning routine. And obviously Brian and I already have ours, but I'm still going to take Brian through these questions live, and you can think through them for yourself as Brian's answering, and hopefully that'll help generate some ideas for how you want to build your own.
And if you
So
guys have any questions, those who are listening, throw them in the chat. And if we have time, we'll answer them. So
yes,
feel free to interact.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. So it's only 3 questions and they're relatively simple. So the first one is, how do you want to feel when you start your day? And try to think of 1 to 3 emotions or states of being. One of mine was, being warm. I want to feel warm. And Brian had earlier said, I want to feel, some peace. So what's coming up for you, Brian?
What's coming up is I want to feel accomplished. That's like the
Okay.
word that popped into my head, which I think is where the eat the frogs part comes in.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
getting it all done before the day even begins. I used to say, beat the sun and the day is won. and for me, that still rings true for me. Again, that won't be true for everybody. All you night owls
Yeah.
out there, you're just as valid as I am. So
Yeah.
and
So
another one is peaceful. Absolutely is part of it. And I think really even more than peaceful, these are the same, but I would say centered. I want to feel centered. And
yeah.
sometimes I have a little bit of lower back pain. It's been with me on and off for a decade. And the yoga that I do, it's a type of muscle activation yoga that really goes right toward that. And so it's not even like I'm not doing yoga for yoga's sake. I'm doing it for a specific reason, which is, again, goes right to why the morning routine should be so customized to you and your needs. If you don't have lower back pain, then you don't need to do the same muscle activation yoga that I do, right?
Right. Right. But it's based on how you want to feel. Like if you recall or were listening when Brian was going through his whole morning routine, you can see how the emotions that came up for him, peace, accomplishment, centered, all the things that he regularly does in the morning are creating that feeling for him. So, second question, which you have already assessed for yourself, but we're going to do it. What actions or tasks have helped you feel those emotions before in any space of your life? Where have you felt those emotions before and what were you doing?
Yeah, well, the accomplished, it's like I feel it whenever I'm getting stuff done, especially stuff that's hard or stuff that it's like I know that this task is part of a larger picture of what will fulfill me, but the task itself is boring as shit, right? And when I get that task done, I feel accomplished. And so I think that's, again, where the eat the frogs early came from for me,
Yeah.
and the feeling of being centered. Truly, it, like, I have had times in the past where I've tried so many meditation things. Oh my God, like my head is going to explode from how many meditation things I've tried. Like, they were not making me calmer until candle gazing. And when I found candle gazing, it's something like, there's this misconception with meditation that you're supposed to stop your mind and empty your mind, which both are categorically impossible. And so instead, you occupy your mind with something. At least that's my personal opinion. And so candle gazing somehow has helped me because my mind is occupied with the dancing flame. And by doing that, I actually feel centered and more peaceful. And then I learned that actually in the yogic principles, the idea of candle gazing came about to sharpen and help the mind concentrate, which is something my mildly ADHD brain loves and could use, right? And so it was from a like many, I've been on all these retreats and different things, and like one of them, they had that, and I was like, ooh, this resonates. And so I took it home and made it part of my morning routine.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, at first I was like, "Oh, like what's candle gazing?" But that totally makes sense because and many of the viewers here, maybe you've had a evening bonfire and you just sit
Yes.
and watch the flames. And I think like pretty universally people feel calmer in that state. They really enjoy that. I think that's why so many people like throw bonfires as a form of social gathering because it is just nice.
It's so true because you
Sometimes
notice.
for other reasons besides the flames, but also the flames are nice.
Yeah, but you notice when you're around a bonfire, there really isn't an opportunity for awkward silences even to come in, because
Yeah.
when there's nothing to talk about, you're happy to watch the flame. Like, you're just happy to do it, right? So like it just somehow is very captivating. Fire, there's something to it for me, and it resonates.
Yeah.
So I brought it in, So
Yeah.
as you find things that resonate, when you take yourself through this, and you find your answers for those questions, even if the answer feels weird to you, like, oh, that one time I used to gaze at the bonfire, I felt calmer. find a way to bring that into your practice if it makes
Yeah,
sense to you, if it resonates, right? Like, don't dismiss whatever comes up in your brain because it seems weird or the picture doesn't at first seem related to what you could possibly do in the morning, because you might be able to find
exactly.
a creative way to bring it in.
Yeah. So once you've answered that question of what actions or tasks in the past have helped me feel these emotions that I want to feel before, then as Brian said, the third question that you can ask yourself is how can I fit some variation of that action or task into my day, which is exactly what Brian has done with candle gazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So guys, just think about that. You could let yourself sit with that, right? Mo, can you just now, for the sake of people to take this exercise with them, just say, like, take them through
Yeah.
step 1 is this question, step 2 is
Yeah.
this, step 3 is this. So they have it
Yeah.
right in order at the end here.
Yes. Yes. So the first question you ask yourself is, how do I want to feel when I start my day? And you just kind of sit with that and try to locate one or a couple emotions or states of being that you want to feel. Step 2 is asking yourself, what actions or tasks have helped me feel these emotions before?
Mhm.
So you might go into your imagination and see if you can remember a time when you felt them. And then step 3 is, how can I fit some variation of that action or task into my day? It doesn't have to be the exact same thing. So, like, a bonfire is different from candle gazing, right? Um, but can I modify it in a way that can fit into my everyday routine or repeatable tasks that I do so that I can get that feeling on a more regular basis?
Yeah. Right on. That's beautiful. I love that exercise. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, everybody, thank you so much for being here. We love you all, and we will see you again next week at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time for another
Mhm.
episode of DIY Wellness. In the meantime, keep taking personal growth into your own hands. You've got this.